I will try, there's a lot of you, so I'll try to give room here and there for people for comments and questions, which I will welcome as much as possible. Uh, and the thing is, yes, I did write a book, The Art of Organizing, uh, which uh, this be it. And the Art of Organizing, that book is one of the few books that I know of on labor unions that's not written by an academic, which means I'm not an academic. And it's written from the inside, not from the outside looking in. It's written, I give the adventures of my fellow workers and myself on the battlefield. And that's where it's coming from. And it's an easy read and it's fun. And you can get it at Hardball Press. You can go online at hardballpress.com. And the guy who runs it, Tim Sheards, is a wonderful person. And it's a really nice outfit. So they have lots of other, besides my book, they have lots of other labor union books that I think you'll find really helpful. So I'm going to start by reading an excerpt from the book from the time when we were just beginning to think about organizing a union. And in this process, which happened, is something happened to me that I realized that I could be a leader. It's something that never had occurred to me before, but suddenly in the process of doing that, it did happen. So maybe I hope this resonates with some of you. If it does, I'd like to hear about it afterwards. But anyway, it starts out with the quote, I have a pact with love and beauty. I have a pact of blood with my people. That's from Do Not Ask Me by Pablo Neruda. And often seemingly chance happenings change lives. So it was with me in 1991. I had 2 weeks off for what was going to be a very important vacation for me. At the very last moment, though, plans for my trip were canceled, and there was nothing I could do. I had a free 2 weeks. What to do with them? I have said that the idea of a labor union was going around in museum guard circles at that time. But no one really knew anything about organizing a union, least of all me. I'd never had the slightest inclination in that direction. I had never been any kind of leader. I had never shown any proclivity toward social activism until then. I decided to spend those 2 weeks researching labor unions. I learned a lot and began to relate it to our conditions at the Museum of Fine Arts. I found out about organizing a union in general, but I also found out that our position at the museum was unique. We were security guards working at a private institution. Therefore, we were under the restrictions of the Taft-Hartley Act, which made us different from almost everyone else. As private security guards, we were forbidden to join AFL-CIO unions unless we had management's permission. I knew that was hardly likely to happen. More research told me, however, that there existed an international security guard union, especially for people like us. I found out how to get in touch with them and did. In short, when I returned 2 weeks later, I was, if only by comparison to everyone else at the museum, an expert. I communicated my newfound knowledge to others. We needed to get as many people as possible to sign union cards, which was the way to start election proceedings, by taking the signed cards to the labor board. We needed to decide what was the proper time to do that. Of course, I needed to explain what the labor board was and how management would come after us like anything once they found out what we were up to. We began to meet at the houses and apartments of various guards, including my own. I was the only one they looked to for advice. It just kind of happened. I don't really remember all of the people who attended those early secret meetings. Except for Russell Gilfoy, who helped to form a teachers union, we were all in unknown waters here. What can they do to us? Can we get fired? Is it worth it? You can imagine there was a lot of discussion on these subjects. Jill Abatamarco talked about how much she had liked the museum at first, but how it had turned into an oppressive, unfriendly place, and that we had to change that. Here we all agreed with her. We weren't sure of the first two questions, and we were definitely scared about them, but we decided whether or not we could or they would try to fire us, it was worth it. I remember that Russell tried to reassure us by saying that no one at his school lost their jobs. At any rate, this was the way it happened in the beginning, when things came together and I realized the unfairness of the situation we were in. When I saw that management had become bullies, and the more they bullied, the more they liked it, I realized not only that I didn't like that, but that I could do something about it. Or should I say, we could do something about it. I also realized how much I liked the idea. More so, I realized that I could really help others by the process of banding together. And I liked that too. Mostly, however, I learned that gathering people to work together for empowerment and common cause against a powerful tyrant was not foreign to my being. It was intrinsic. This is how I became a leader. So I don't know if that touches a chord with anybody out there, if in your experience, if so, I would like to hear it. If not, we'll move on. If anybody does, I guess, have something to say, you can raise your hand or whatever. At any rate, okay. There is and that is Joe
Diana.
Ocasio.
Diana Ocasio. I just have a question. You said that that the group would look up to you to lead them. How did you gain their trust in all of what you were doing at the beginning?
Well, for one thing, I was a fellow guard. I did the same work everybody. I wasn't coming in from outside or doing anything. I was under the exact same conditions as everyone else, and that was a continuing thing with our union, is that all the officers throughout were people who were not professionals. They were not paid, and and they were people like us. And so that's part of the other part of it. As I said, I just happened to have gotten some information that nobody else had, so people were looking to me in that position. So somehow, without meaning to be there, I got there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Well, anyway, the union that did come in with us, and we did win the election for that union, and it was called the United Plant Guard Workers of America, and it was a stinkeroo of a union. Everything that you've heard about corrupt labor unions was personified in the United Plant Guard Workers of America. And they had, I'll just mention a few things. They had a president who made over $100,000 and with a huge expense account. And they had, underneath the president, they had people who they called group leaders, and they made 50,000 to 90,000, and they had huge expense accounts. And once a year, everybody had a great convention. The first one that I remember was in Las Vegas. We didn't go, of course. And so anyway, these people who were called group leaders, they were supposed to service the local unions in their areas. Ours never did. We never saw him except when he came to collect dues. He was always late as for the grievance process, and for any union business, forget it. And from what I could learn, that was the same with all of the local unions and the group leaders. I guess they enjoyed making lots of money and didn't care much for the rest of it. And finally, how it ended up was they colluded with management. And what I mean by that is we had negotiated a step pay raise, and management somehow thought they had found the loophole in it, and they reneged on it. And so we protested, and I was expecting the union to immediately come in, but the union sided with management. We were devastated. Many years later, I talked to a night watch guard who had been through the administrative offices and who had seen a letter of collusion between management and the United Plant Guard workers. But obviously, our membership was totally demoralized. We were totally done in. But after the smoke cleared, we decided in secret that we were going to start another union, a grassroots union, what would be an independent union. So we started working in secret towards that. And what I didn't know was that in that situation, a union which had gone through an experience like that, the chances of winning another union were nil. But fortunately, I didn't know that. So we went ahead and we actually won our thing. And we did form an independent union. We had a contest which got the members certainly excited and interested to name the union and to also get a logo for it. And we gave them a really nice prize in return. And the winning name was the Museum Independent Security Union, which still stands. And we, as I said, we learned as we went along, and we learned by the grassroots, and we learned everything. And the reason that worked, or one of the main reasons, is that we had a really great mentor and consultant by the name of Paul Mccarthy, who some of you may have taken his courses at the Labor Guild. He's taught here from time immemorial. He's a really knows his stuff. And we also had a great lawyer, and his name was Bob Mccarthy, and he also works at the Labor Guild. And Bob has written what is kind of more or less the Bible for shop stewards, and in a series of books that he's put out, and which was tremendously helpful to me in work that I did as shop steward, in addition to other things that I did. So I'm going to pick up here at in a part of the book which I feel really reveals the secret of our success, and it also picks up at a probably the most crucial time in our history. And that was right after our first contract as a independent union with management. And because we had such we got generally a good contract, the one thing management was able to saddle us with, because we had come through the experience that we had, was a modified open shop. So with that as the scenario, I will read you what I consider to be a very important part about how we succeeded. And we'll start with this quote from Stewards by David G. Hurlbut. And he says, "The steward's job is such a tedious chore. Without them, we would be out the door, fired for yet another unjust cause. We cannot thank them all enough because the job's so very tough." So anyway, when UPGWA, that is United Plant Guard Workers of America, appeared to collude with museum management and left the union high and dry and the members demoralized, we fought and won against the museum in an election for an independent union. Still, the guards were divided. And because of that, management got a clause in the contract where the guards employed at the time of the contract could choose whether to join the union or not. At this point, we were saved in large part by the grievance process. That is, the first thing I did was to build a crack crew of shop stewards who worked hard as hell to take the back of any guard who got into trouble with management. We learned which cases were winnable and which weren't. We learned how to investigate cases, what were the important points to look for, and how to find loopholes in management's case. We learned about past practice and establishing precedent. We learned why winning in what seemed to be bad cases later helped to win good cases. We learned that if you let certain cases pass uncontested, that set an unfortunate precedent for all future cases of that nature, and vice versa. I worked as a steward through much of my career, and I found it to be a very interesting and rewarding job. Of course, I love to overcome management's arguments and evil intentions. Originally, the vote for UPCO was over 80% in favor. That's United Plant Guard Workers. In the vote for an independent union, we won by only 7 votes. Management learned that we were serious, and our members learned that we were serious. And right there, the union was made for the future. I cannot overstate how important that was. So important that almost every one of our old members chose of their own free will to join the union. Also, I cannot overstate the value of having a consultant like McCarthy and a lawyer like Schwartz. Okay, is there any questions or comments there? Okay, there is one, Jack Wolf.
Michael, thank you. Can you just put this on a little bit of a timeline for us? 2 questions. First question is sort of, when did this all start? When did the independent union start? You know, roughly by year. And secondly, how big was the bargaining unit?
Okay, well, first we started with the United Plant Guard Workers. We started working, organizing for the election, and finally the election that started in 1991. Okay, in 1995, we brought in the independent union. So, and basically our union was made up of 120 security guards.
That's a pretty good sized bargaining unit. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And it's, yeah, it's nice. I always feel if we maybe can't help the whole world, but we can help 120 people around us. And so we'll come to one of the highlights of the night, which is a film by Kevin McCarthy, an award-winning documentary filmmaker. And Kevin McCarthy just happens to be the son of Paul McCarthy. And I think he made a wonderful film, and I'm very happy with it. I think it shows a lot about our union, and it kind of centers around a demonstration that we had at the museum when they had a party for a man named Bill Koch. And Bill Koch just happens to be a brother of the 2 Koch brothers. And he also is a super conservative billionaire. And one of the things he liked to do, and his brothers like to do, is sue each other for control of the company, of the family company. In the end, Bill lost, but he made billions elsewhere. But Bill was also he had some fancy yacht, and that fancy yacht happened to win the American Cup in 1992. So you'll notice around in the background, his boats are there, and that forms kind of the backdrop for what we were doing there. And I'll also I'll mention two other things. One is that the scenario for this was that for us and management, we had gone for well over a year trying to negotiate a contract, at least we were trying, and we were stalled, totally stalled at this moment. So that's the backdrop of this. And the other thing I would like to mention is, while I've said that, we learned things at the grassroots, how to organize and all that as we went along, and I feel we learned pretty much everything. I think the film will show a lot of the things that we did learn, and I hope that you will agree on that, and we can kind of discuss that afterwards. So Joe, Magic Joe can now roll the film. We don't have sound though.
Can you all see and hear this?
Any reason we don't have sound?
Mike is wearing headphones. 1 second.
Okay, let's try that again with sound, if we can.
Can you all hear this now?
My name is Jim Kowalski, and I've been with the union here for a long time. Long enough so that I can remember when our current director first came. And since our current director's been here, we've had 3 layoffs over the years, 2 major ones and one that just affected the guards. And as a result, we've lost quite a few full-time positions over the years. This is a trend that's continued, and thankfully we have a union and we can stick up for ourselves and say something about it.
We're not there to make trouble for like I said, trouble for the museum. We're there to show them that we appreciate working for them, but they have to show us appreciation too as well for us working for them,
What I feel is equally important as being a guard at the museum is helping to protect and improve the jobs of our guards. I feel it's very important work, and I don't mind the extra effort that we have to put in.
I enjoy participating in worthwhile causes. It's just something that I do and I enjoy. I'm a people person, so I love helping out anywhere I can.
I'm part-time worker, but if you stay only in your 16 hours or you stay on 19 hours and you not take overtime, you cannot live with this money, but you must to work full-time hours to be in normal situation with money.
I like to work with the union because we're working for the good thing for employees. When we need something, for about more hour, more, so we working together. So this is the name union.
Well, what it's about is, will we continue to have the benefits that we need, at least a minimum of the benefits that we need? Will we have a salary, at least a minimum of a salary that we need, so we can just get by living in Boston? That's what this contract means.
I just wanted to say that, it's great working with the museum, for the museum. And we have to do what we have to do, by sticking together as a team. What's right is right, and what's wrong is wrong.
What the museum wants to do is to take away basic benefits that would mean that for many people they can't get by. So this is an extremely important contract for the security guards of the Museum of Science.
And what is happening here at the museum, of course, is straight out of management's guidebook to labor around this country. And that is to try to get rid of full-time jobs over and over again, and to try to figure out ways of paying workers less. And what you are doing is just part of what all community people should be doing, and that is telling the truth about what is really going on at the MFA.
We want it now. What do we want a contract? When do we want it now? What do we want a contract? When do we want it now?
My guess is the museum is hoping that we'll roll over, and play dead.
Looks like the circus came to town.
You're a good dude.
They will see that this is a group of people that is not going to roll over.
We all need health insurance and benefits.
No, I didn't have any.
We all mostly have families to take care of, and that's a situation that should be taken care of as soon as possible. We cannot live in a situation like this anymore, I believe. So something should be done as soon as possible, no doubt.
We are bound and determined, I feel, much more than the museum, because this is our lives that depend on that. We are not going to, give in on this issue. It's a message from the security guards. They're taking money away from their low-wage workers there. We need your support. Thank you very much.
When workers have to go out and go into the streets in order to make their just demands known, it's a struggle. It's a struggle, a hard daily struggle to both work and at the same time stand up for your legitimate rights so that justice in fact can be done here, and you can get the kind of contract that an institution that parades itself as a worldwide art institution should be giving to each and every one of its workers. So I thank you for standing up, because when workers stand up for themselves, they encourage other workers to do the same, and we need, in fact, a spirit of unity among workers and community so that justice for the worker can take place in ways that it hasn't before. Thank you.
Thank you.
What you're doing here is an important work for not only yourselves, but for workers throughout this city, throughout this state, and throughout this country. And so we feel comfortable saying to the board of the MFA and saying to Malcolm Rogers that what they are doing is unfair.
My name is Russell Gilfoy. I've worked in the museum as a guard for the last 20 years, and I really love the place. Well, as a guard, my primary function really is preserving these wonderful things that are in this building. I really feel working with the union is extraordinarily important. And I really couldn't not do it. I couldn't avoid it or walk away from it. I just can't. I would feel bad if I did. I would feel like I was abandoning people.
And I think we will put the pressure on the museum now to come to terms with us, to come, to take away their takeaways.
Get on out here, girlfriend, and help us do some stuff. If I get to visit, honey, I can visit anything.
The institution thinks they have respect. The first way to have respect is by respecting the workers. As long as they don't respect the workers, they don't deserve respect. An institution that values itself, values its workers. An institution capable of have sensitivity is sensitive to their workers. An institution that have any sense of justice offer justice to their workers. Do we want to raise? When do we want it? Now! Now! Do we want to wait another 6 months? No! Have we had enough of Mr. Jolly Roger? Fat rat! What do you think of that? Fat rat! What do you think of that? Fat rat! What do you think of that? At the moment that this institution begins to respect the workers, then they deserve our respect. When that institution begins to understand that justice needs to be acted and done, then they will get ourselves on their side. In the meantime, here's where we belong, with the workers, where the worker is.
Negotiate. 1, 2, 3, 4. We won't take it anymore. 5, 6, 7, 8. We stay negotiate.
Mi nombre es Rosa Myers. I'm from Dominican Republic. Yo trabajo en el Museo de Artes de Boston. I love my job. Yeah. I love to talk to people, explain about the painting. And some people tell me something about anything they know. The full time is good now because I have good benefit. In part time I don't have nothing, only nothing. And then the union helped for about 6 years, so they help me. For me, union is good for me, and for the employees, it's very good.
Unido, jamás será vencido. Unido, jamás será vencido.
We say,
fight back.
They say,
Get back.
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 We say,
Fight back.
First, I want to thank all of the guards for taking on this institution, for not rolling over, and saying that they will have justice and economic justice in this place.
But I think the best thing that all of us can do is to take the position that we will have nothing to do with them until they come to the table and move ahead to develop a fair and just contract.
Just like a tree that's standing by the water, we shall not.
Yes, my name is Mary Berry, and I started to work here at the museum in 1999. Last year was the first time I really had the opportunity to, I would say, get in and be more on the front line than I has been in the past. And this year, the president of the union, Mike Raysson, asked me to come and sit in on the negotiating team, which I was very impressed. I did share with him that I knew very little because that was my very first, and it was a great experience. I really enjoyed it. I didn't know so much went into it.
The people who are running the museum are not civilized in terms of their actions in relation to the workers, and we need to cut them off. We need to call a spade a spade. We need to call a snake a snake. We need to call a thief a thief. And as long as we continue to be guided.
Thank you for doing this, because when you do this, you tell this institution you are going to respect us. Thank you for doing it. We have something they do not have. We have people. We have people. We have people. Why do they want us to be divided? They want to keep us divided because they know that divided, we are not using our major resource, and our major resource is ourselves together, united. The people, we have 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 people, and our goal then is unity. Our goal then is unity, and so put those together, and you have the people united will never be divided. The people united will never be divided. The people united will never be defeated. 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 The people united will never be defeated.
You did it. For our people, I think this was a double victory for all of the security guards. Number one, they were able to get back, or keep, I should say, their benefits. They were able to get retroactive pay, and they were able to get a decent pay raise. Number two, they realized that we had the power to beat one of the most powerful cultural institutions in this area, that we could do it, that they could do it. This was, I think this, from my point of view, was even more important and more empowering, than the fact that they got their salaries and their benefits and all this, which was tremendous. But they also saw they had the power. They can do this. We can do this. That was the greatest thing, for people to realize that they have the power to do this. Okay, any comments before we move along? If not, would anybody here would like to comment on what, I've said that there were union tools of organizing and strategy that were used. What were those that you saw in the film? Is there anything that you might have done differently? And finally, what were the strong points and what might have been the not so strong points? Okay, Matt.
Yeah, I don't really have a lot of feedback what could have been done differently. I just wanted to speak and lift up what was most powerful, and that was the workers' personal stories. That's what really that's what really kind of got to me. Their narratives.
Yes, that's the backbone of this, is the workers' stories, and I actually hope that in the book that's the most important thing in the book, is the story of the fellow workers who work together. It's a changing scenario, but I think it's a huge part of what unions are about. So thanks. Yeah. Anybody else have?
Hi, Michael. This is Felipe. I have my hand up. I don't have my screen on, but I'm coming from the outside. I've never organized anything before. Until 3 years ago, I started organizing the rideshare drivers, and I just want to say thank you, because in the video I saw some people that I sort of seen in pictures, and some friends that I know that have been organized and have put their pictures up, and it's sometimes it's difficult. How do you feel when you just want to give up? Because sometimes it feels like you just want to give up sometimes. Organizing 150,000 people in Massachusetts is not really easy. It's difficult, and it's stressful. And that's why, I'm trying to educate myself try to be a good leader and try to organize and learn as much information as I can from coming out. That's what I wanted to just say is thank you. And, I've gotten a little bit of inspiration tonight watching that video.
Yeah, I can really relate to what you say, because especially when you're up against a really powerful opponent, there are times when it seems actually before this very demonstration, I was talking to Paul McCarthy. I just put on another demonstration, and I thought I'd done a pretty good job. And Paul says to me, he says, "Well, you're going to have to do better than that." I said, "What do you mean I'm going to have to do better?" And he says, "Yeah." I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "It's not working. It's not working. So you have to do better." So the thing is, we had to do better, or else it wasn't going to work. And the bottom line for me is, you'll pardon me for saying it this way, but I'd say to myself, I'll be damned if I'm going to let those bastards beat us. I'm just there's no way that I'm going to give in to them, and that was the bottom line. I don't care how. I'm just not going to give in to those guys. So yeah, I do understand the feeling, but I also understand the feeling, damn, I'm not going to give in. Okay, there was somebody else who raised their hand. Okay, and that's Chris.
Hi guys, I'm Chris Brennan from Pipe Fitters. I gotta say, first off, Mike, to unify all those multiple races and to people from different walks of life must have been really difficult to get them all on the same page. So they all have different understandings of what it's all about, and they don't want to fight the fight. But I liked how the fact you got the public involved, because that's one of the biggest things, getting the public involved, get politicians involved, and don't just try to take it on yourself, And then like the gentleman before with the ride share, he needs to find some other people to like here to just bounce things off of him, to get kind of reinvigorate him, to keep on fighting the fight. Because I'm an organizer for Local 537, it's a building trades local, and Boston is a very strong union city for the building trades, but we're constantly under attack, constantly being undermined by big businesses, big money from outside city of Boston. And the average person doesn't even know what a pipe fitter does, but we build systems that keep people comfortable and cool and safe in their buildings and hospitals and universities, pharmaceuticals. But the non-union sector is always, it's not even the worker, guys. The worker is just a worker trying to make a living and provide for his family. It's the companies that basically, not much so much enslave them because they pay them, but they take advantage of them. And that's what was happening with you, Mike, obviously, to rise up. And I'd like to know a little bit more behind that. What caused to the point where you guys said, that's it, we're gonna form a union, we need to defend ourselves? I'm gonna leave it on that.
That's an interesting question. And I kind of look at what happened at the Museum of Fine Arts was kind of a preview of what happened, what was going to happen with the corporate takeover of kind of, from my point of view, since I worked at the museum, was a corporate takeover of cultural institutions, but it was a corporate takeover of practically everything at that time. But what happened with us was things gradually, we had the old time, the old time museum people. There was the idea of a museum family, and it was the old Boston Brahmin thing, and it was noblesse oblige and all that. But there was that, and then all of a sudden it changed. They brought in a state policeman as a new head of a director of security, and things changed radically. And you couldn't even go to the bathroom without having a problem there anymore. But it kept things, all the benefits we had, they kept taking slowly but surely taking away. And finally, the thing that really got us organized was they took away the chairs of the guards. They took away their chairs, and it may not, to some people, it may not seem a big thing, but you'll be surprised the amount of guards who have bad backs, bad legs, bad feet, because they can't, because they're standing up all the time. It's a huge deal for us. And when they took away the chairs, that was what really I remember Paul McCarthy used to tell me, he says, it's not your own people that organize the union. Management organizes it for you. And that's true. They organize it in a negative way, I'm saying, and they do that. And you're right. And getting the people together from all the different, I'll mention that at the museum, the only place in the museum where you really had a variety of people from all over the world, from all different ethnicities, from all colors, were the guards. The museum itself was lily white. It was, and we were if you want to think of a museum as a place where, with things from all over the world and it's universal and all that, they were not. We were. And getting them together was a job. And I think you can imagine what a job it was. So what you're saying resonates with me, because I can see that you've probably gone through a lot of things that we went through. Anybody else?
We have a question in the chat. At this point, are all workers at the MFA unionized?
It's what happened actually in just prior in the months prior to this is practically all the workers at the museum did organize finally. So I think there may be a few workers who still are not organized, but I think the majority of workers are organized. They are. My only thing that I have is they're organized under a larger union, and I feel that what we learned as a grassroots union is something that is hard to learn. When I think if you depend on someone else, I hope they learn the lessons the way we learned them, and by that I mean that they learn how to demonstrate. They learn how to do grievances, et cetera, et cetera. So, but yes, the answer is pretty much. I think the whole museum is pretty much unionized now, and I think they're working on a contract as we speak. Any other questions? So
What prompted you to do the film, Michael? Okay, was because it's a great film.
It is. It's a wonderful film, and seeing it again, I was really impressed. And I felt like going out looking at it. I felt like going and marching and tapping my feet to the whole thing. And I remember how Byron and Chuck and Felix came around, and all the people from other unions and other social activist groups came around. Yeah, it's and of course our own people. How I want to mention a story, the behind the scenes story, which is you saw Brenda Lee in that in the movie. Does everybody remember who Brenda Lee was? Well, anyway, Brenda Lee was a big African-American woman who said, you know, how she liked being at the museum, but they had to like us and treat us right too. And anyway, Brenda has been, she was our kind of eminence grise. She was the elder statesperson, and she had a lot of clout. And if you work in a union, I think most of you realize that one, especially in our economy nowadays, one of the most controversial thing among members is overtime. You have people who really generally want and need lots of overtime. And Brenda, Sheila worked lots of overtime, but she knew everybody who worked overtime. And she, as I say, she had lots of clout when she wanted to use it, because she was our elder statesman. So I said to Brenda, I said, you know, it'd be good to get all those people who do overtime, to get them to come out for the demonstration. She said, don't you worry, Raysson. And she said something to, so she went to those people and she said something like, if you know what's good for you, you better be out there. And all of our people, except for one, forewent overtime, and they were out there. And as I say, and for that to happen is a minor miracle. And what the museum had to do is they had to have the docent ladies do the work of the guards on that night. Anything else? Okay, I'm going to read a final excerpt from the book now. And I think it tells, I hope it tells a lot about what we did behind the scenes to keep our workers, our fellow members in the loop, to keep them in solidarity, to keep them motivated. And this is and this tells a lot about how we did it. So it starts with a quote saying, we've got a little message that will shake your corporate suites. You may own the company, but it's we who own the streets. And that's from Union Warriors by Steve Suffett. And it was always necessary to keep the troops fired up. As I said, it was absolutely essential for them to feel an important part of the process and keep that up for the whole campaign, and to inspire them to participate in the demonstrations in order to convince management to come to terms. It was vital to express things in a way that the members understood just how important it was for them to come out and leaflet, picket, and demonstrate. I cannot overstate how sensitive and subtle and how delicate it was, this process of keeping the members informed. It was perhaps the most significant part of McCarthy's dictum to do the real talking outside of the bargaining room. It was here that the members were kept in the loop, actively drawn in and inspired, so we hoped. The alternative could be disastrous, should members feel that they were being passed by and ignored, creating huge divisions. If successful, unlooked for help would come from unexpected people. And it was here that the tide was often turned. And I will say that I'm going to have a few pictures illustrating this from the book that are taken from our security newsletter. The security blanket, our security guard newsletter was called the Security Blanket, printed before, during, and after contract campaigns. The object, as stated above, is to find out what our members want us to negotiate for in the contract, then to let them know what is going on, to keep morale up during the long campaign, and finally to let everyone know that it was worth the struggle by congratulating ourselves for getting a really good contract. Okay, Joe, can you crank that up? Okay, here we go. Good. Okay, so this is, as I said, this comes from our security guard newsletter. This is from the security blanket. This is when we're just getting started out, and this is getting members into the groove here. So next picture. Okay, these are our issues. So this is, we spent a lot of time going around and finding out what the members' issues really were. And this tells us what their issues were. And it also shows the guards leafleting. Leafleting is a great thing. It's an old fashioned, but it's probably one of the best ways for people to get in touch with the public. So this show, the next, I think the next one will further, yes, why we leaflet. So this is why we leaflet. And it's, as it says here, it's one of the best ways for a union to communicate with the public. You're out there, you're speaking to the public. People get a feeling we're not in this alone. And I also like leafleting because I could see the museum people inside the museum watching us leaflet outside the museum. And when we were leafleting, in our leaflets, we would always include a thing for people to call the museum or write to the museum or email the museum. I guess nowadays it would have to do with Twitter and other ways of communicating, but it was important and people did do it. And the next picture that we come out will show that people who did write into the museum or who did email them, and these are examples, and we wanted to show our members that, yeah, this is, people are, the public is with you. And if you bring on the next one, I'll read one that I thought was, I think it's the next one, maybe it's one more here. No, there was one there, somewhere anyway, there was.
Maybe it's that one, Mr. Rogers.
No. Oh, is this? Well, anyway, I'll just read this one. There was my wife Oh yeah, here, no, let's see. Anyway, I can't find the one that I had picked out but I will read one. I'm a frequent visitor to your museum and a patron as well. I have noticed of late the dissatisfaction of your security guards. It is not to your advantage. Although visiting in Florida at this time, I'm aware of the current issues and suggest that economy on the backs of your employees is not capitalism. It is totalitarianism. And here's another one. Sir, I'm concerned with the apparent lack of social conscience within the organization of the MFA. I learned that normal living wages, job security, and benefits for the lower income employee of the MFA are currently being reconsidered, that a shift is being made to temporary jobs without benefits, as if committed museum personnel are mere waitresses, and all this, even though the museum has no solvency issues, and there seems to be enough money for a building expansion and for higher ranking jobs. I would expect that a cultural institution like the MFA would have higher standards than that of the typical corporate greed that has become more and more prevalent in the US. I hope you will consider my remarks in your negotiations with the employees of the MFA, and that the museum can not only be proud of its art, but also of the treatment of its own workers. So these are things that people did send in to the museum. And I remember also one time when we did a petition, and people would write in things on the petition, and on the museum's Facebook page, I would fill it up with comments from people who filled out the petitions, and some of them were pretty scathing. And so anyway, we'll come to let's go to the final picture here, Joe. Click. Okay. If you can get to the here, how sweet it is. So this is kind of, I hope that black thing isn't it, but anyway, we've got to the place where we've got a really good contract, and how sweet it is. Congratulations to us. And I remember that at this time, actually for this contract, I went to Jobs with Justice, which is one of the social activist groups that we were connected to. And I told them about our contract, and they were amazed, and they said, "Oh, what a great contract that you guys got." And so I tried to let everybody know, and I should say we tried to let everybody know what a great thing it was. We went out there, we worked our butts off, and we got a good contract. Okay, thanks, Joe. Okay, at this point, I have two things. Are there any comments on that? And also, what are ways I would like to know that perhaps some of you use in your unions and your work to promote solidarity and to motivate your fellow workers? If you might share some of that for us and for me, so I can hear it. Let's see.
Hey, Mike. Dave Kowalski.
Hi, Dave.
Sorry for cutting in and out. I've had internet problems all evening, but I read your book, and obviously, and I can identify with some of the stuff that you said, especially the passion that you have of not letting them win. You brought back some old feelings, that passion that is lit, that fire in your belly, and I think that's everyone that's here tonight has got that fire in their belly. And the only thing that put it out is sitting at those chairs at the Glaber Guild, and it just reinforced it. But I remember the passion so great, Michael, that I would rather die fighting than let him win. And the passion was that great, that you were so determined I could relate with that. And the key for me is getting the buy-in from the people. Because once the company thinks they have you over a barrel and you get a petition letter with 99 and 98% of the people's names on it, and bring it back to them and say, no, it's not just me. It's not just a few of us, it's all of us. And it makes a difference.
Well, thanks, David. And I hope that that this workshop, and I hope, and I'm hoping that the book also is something that will help to inspire people to, to go out there. And because this is a time in our, we've just gone through a really difficult 4 years, and this is a time for us to really organize, to really get out there and feel inspired to communicate with our fellow workers, and if we haven't yet, to start doing that, and to start really reorganizing our country and reorganizing the labor union movement. And so I hope this has helped a little bit for that. I would like to thank Joe Twiner, who was who without Joe, as I said earlier, I would have been floundering in the chaos of technology, which not being aware of this. I'd like to thank my wife, who's worked above and beyond the call of duty to help me to get this ready. I'd like to thank David Kowalski from the Labor Guild, who helped to get this on. And last but not least, the guy who's been hiding there to see if I did full justice to the work in which he had, in which he was my mentor, and I was, and I learned from him. I hope that he will approve of the work of how we have put it forth tonight. So I have and await his judgment. But anyway, Paul has been huge in, and I hope that everybody can have some sort of labor mentor like Paul, who can help them in their in whatever in their learning process, and in putting organizing to work. So thank you, Paul.
Michael, thank you. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah, Michael, you did a wonderful job, and I'm so happy. I was watching all the folks here at this class are getting so much from you, and that to me is nice in the twilight of my career, to see people out there actually putting some of this stuff, to a good purpose. I'd like to just point out one thing that I thought was kind of interesting, because one of my favorite little gambits, when you mentioned the handbilling, the handbills featured probably about 20 or 25 of the workers in the museum. It gave a little narrative. Chris, Matt Gunnick was talking about the narrative, and it told about who these people were. I remember Rosa Myers. I mean, she had basically escaped from a bad situation in the Dominican Republic to come here, and she had children, and she started out working in the cafeteria down at the museum, and then she finally became a guard, and her story was a wonderful story. And so these handbills were all being handed out. This is a standard piece that I've used for years. And so think about that. When you have a diverse body of people, especially you're in a city area, and you can really make connections. The trades could make connections like that with people, I think a lot easier and also getting the members themselves saying, oh yeah, I'm talking about some of the people I work with. Oh, here's Mike Raysson. Here's his story. And folks love to read those when you hand them out.
You may have noticed in the handbill that Russell was handing out was another one of our Latina women guards was adorning that handbill. I don't know if anybody noticed that. And I think the Latina women got a kick out of passing out handbills with their own pictures on it. I think that was a little, it's an added incentive not only to get to the public who reads this and who says, oh yeah, these, you know, who sees that these are real people who are working in this place and who have real stories that are working in the, and compelling stories, and figuring out how to put forth that story in a paragraph or two on a leaflet is of course a challenge. And so it goes both ways. It's I think I also might mention in handing out leaflets, which is so, as I said, is that we encouraged every one of our members to come out and leaflet, and even if it was just a minute or two from their lunch hour or their break or something, and they would do it, and they came out, even if they just were there for a minute or two, all of a sudden the spirit of what was happening out there encompassed them, and many of those people who just came out for a minute would come out regularly because they saw what was happening with this. Yeah, that was, and that was another great idea from Paul McCarthy, yes, which we were able to use. And as I say, great to have a great mentor.
Michael, thank you. But one other point, it should be noted that Michael put together 4 contract campaigns. This wasn't just the one. The one we see in the movie is the very tail end of it. But this one over what, 12 years, 13 years. And so, I mean, it was a continuum in every different contract opening, reopening. He had planned things that were different and getting involved, but it still took a while to really get to that point where you saw all of those people out there. And that's the dedication of this one man and the leadership of this one man and how he put this thing together and he stuck with it. And that's the important part. You know, salute, my friend.
Well, thank you, Paul. And I hope that this helped to get one and all of you inspired to go out there and do some of the same when you go out there and give them hell.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, and so thank you, everybody. I was really glad to meet you all, and thank you, Joe, again.
I think we can all give Michael a big round of applause. I think that was truly great. I've put 4 links in the chat that people might find interested in. The first is the video that we saw tonight. You can have it, you can share it. The second is Michael's book. If you want to know more, it's right there for you to receive. The next 2 are links that the Labor Guild is putting on. Tomorrow we have a COVID-19 health and safety training. We're putting that on with Teamsters 25. Anyone who completes it will get a certificate from the Teamsters Health and Safety Department. And the second one is at the Labor Guild, our main programming comes every year, twice a year, with our labor school. This year it's 10 weeks of two sessions of 5, where we have 7 classes, including one by our very own Paul McCarthy. I encourage everyone to check it out. Registration opened this morning, and so we're going to be starting to publicize it, but I want to make sure everyone here gets a first crack at it. And once again, thank you to Mike.
One last thing I'd like to say to David is that it really is a pleasure, having spent so many semesters and classes at the Labor Guild, to be able to give back a little bit finally at this time to the Labor Guild, after having sat on the other side of this for so many semesters. So it is my pleasure to be able to do that.
It was an honor to have you here, Michael. Thank you so much for doing it.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Wave.
Solidarity.